I feel like this is a mistake a lot of players in general would make. Like their support is leaving to go do something important, and then you just like instantly die, right?
Yeah.
You need to be aware, like, of if his presence here is allowing you to do this or not. So
Yeah.
obviously now we know it doesn't, right? Like it's too
Yeah.
much CC. So as soon as he's walking away, you need to like start playing differently.
Yeah, for sure.
Alright guys, welcome back. This is weekly coaching number 22. Last week the homework was to start building Helm, look for range creeps, and don't worry too much about like super perfect micro, and then start also mixing in Blink Dagger to the item build. The first part of that homework is the same homework from like week 20, but we couldn't play a lot that last week, so we're doing it for the previous week. Anyway, Dookie, what is the MMR now?
We are at 2594.
2594. Can't type. Nice. Okay, so about the same spot. How did the last week feel?
It was like kind of up and down, but we ended up like ending off with a couple good games.
Okay, cool. I saw the Enchantress game. How did that feel? She just got
That was
nerfed,
good.
so did it feel very different?
I mean, she still feels really good. If like, I don't know, just I'm kind of like so now used to microing that like, it just kind of feels natural, and like I was even like now starting to use the abilities.
Okay.
Like I was able, especially with Enchantress, it's pretty simple. You just
Yeah.
self cast the Q or whatever.
Yeah.
Start hitting them, enchant them, and then you can just micro your creep.
Right. You just have the one creep. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
Okay, for sure. I'm noticing you're actually like winning some games now. So do you feel like that's because you're getting used to the micro, or is it just like kind of luck of the draw?
I would say that it's a little bit of all of it, but also like me staying in, because after last week I was like, why don't I think about the siege creep? And it's like I feel like I'm too focused on things that aren't objectives, like just trying to like harass or I don't know, like micro and shit like that. And I need to like think more about like using those things just to get to the objective, not those things being the objective. Like not every lane has to be I bring their health down to 0.
Right, exactly. Okay, that's really good. That's really good.
Yeah.
It's really insightful. Did you have a game you wanted to look at?
Yes, it was the second, or how do I describe it? The second win.
Second.
So
what
the
time?
one right after the loss.
The one right after the
Between the Enchantress and Beastmaster game.
Okay, Okay, the first. Okay, so you played the Ench game, then the lose with Beastmaster, then the win with Beastmaster. That one.
Yeah.
35-17 duration.
Yeah.
Okay. Start downloading that. So, what are the questions for this game?
So obviously we end up winning, but I knew this was going to be true. That our team's power spikes way later than their team's, and that doesn't end up being a problem for like the game. But we were like kind of getting shit on in the early, and I was wondering like what I could have done or what we could have done to like diminish the returns from that power spike for them, if that makes sense.
Sure, like how to ride out like the early game spike kind of thing. Yeah. Okay.
That and some of my team was kind of like, hey, like you need to rush Halberd for Huskar, and I was like halfway to my Helm of the Overlord, and I felt like it would have delayed my like power spike with the ancient creep, and like for not that much return.
Okay.
I kind of wanted to see if you agreed with that or not, because
Should
I
we
felt
should
like
we have
I have my
finished the
yeah,
Overlord before going for the halberd?
yeah,
Okay, that's fair. Let's have a look.
because I felt like I have my ult, like that's already gonna keep him in place. It's halberd but better. He can't attack or move.
Right. That's true.
You know.
That's true. Okay. Do you have a third question for it?
Not really.
Okay. Well, we'll work on those too. So, how do we play early versus the strong early game comp to make it to late game, and then should we finish Helm before Halberd? So, before we even start, we need to like look at these comps, right? So, CM Dark Willow definitely strong early to mid game heroes. You have Undying though, which is like the strongest early game support, pretty much. And then Dazzle, which is kind of like just fine at all levels, right? So, and on that front, you should be okay. And then you have a Medusa, but they have a Void. So that's about the same in terms of how much you can kind of expect them to get into a fight. Like, obviously, Chrono is like pretty good, even if he has no items. But Medusa's ult is also pretty good, even if she has no items, right? So they're about the same as well. And then it's kind of like Razor versus you. That can just basically go down to like who has a good lane or not. And then the Huskar versus the Zeus. Obviously, Huskar is a massive menace. So really what this game is about is how are we dealing with an early game Huskar?
Yeah.
Because the rest of it is kind of normal, you know? Like, if it's just if it's not a Huskar, like let's say it's like a freaking sniper or something, you're not really that worried about it. It's kind of just a farming game. The Razor is not, he's just a hero that kind of dominates his lane. He's not like a primal beast who's running around the map killing everybody, right?
Yeah.
So he's not really a massive threat. And then the CM and the Dark Willow sort of need to be paired with somebody else anyway to kind of do that. So
yeah,
I don't think the enemy team is like tremendously stronger than you guys early, but it is a little bit stronger just because of this Huskar. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, and my fear was because they have the Huskar to be so strong early, and they have kind of stronger like team fight just off of like Chrono and then Razor ult and then CM ult and then the fear from Willow.
Yeah.
I definitely like did not want to get into a situation where they're like deathballing us super early because I felt like that would be like game.
So they're actually also there, I would say, like, you guys can team fight these guys. Like, obviously the Chrono is kind of the big X factor there, but the CM ult is really easily canceled by this Zeus if he's paying attention. Right. The Willow fear is kind of whatever, you know. That's kind of like, I think it's rare that that spell is like super duper impactful. Like, obviously it can be, but it's not like, oh god, they have Dark Willow, we can't team fight into them, right?
Yeah.
Razor ult is kind of the similar thing there, where it's like sometimes it's good, but sometimes it's not. So you have to think they're also fighting into Medusa ult, Zeus ult, your ultimate, right, which is like pretty good team fight, and then everything Undying does. So basically what it comes down to is like how good is your Undying, and that's kind of like sort of decides like how good your team fight is, because he's pretty much all of it. But let's have a look real quick.
Cool. Would you share?
Yeah. Sorry, completely forgot. Stage 1. Yeah, there you go. You see okay?
Yep.
Alright. So let's just put this on follow camera. Is the music too loud, by the way? Let's see. It's really loud in my ears, but maybe it's just because this game volume is... No, it's low. Okay. Okay, we got a Culling Blade this time. Nice. It's an improvement over last time.
I still fucking keep forgetting it, but I did remember it this game.
That's good. Do you customize your item builds? Like your guides?
No, I only really use the guides as far as like the starting item builds if I've like never played the hero before. But like normally I don't even look at it.
Okay.
Going into the game.
That might be a small little tweak you can make. Is actually I think this is a good practice. Take the time to just like go make a guide for yourself.
Yeah.
and completely fill it out. Do the skill build, do like your early game items, your situational items, do like everything on it, just so you get your brain thinking about it. It actually might be really good exercise for you, just in general, not even just Beastmaster.
Yeah, for sure.
I would say also this is, if you know this is the lane, this is actually a decent magic stick lane. With CM and Void, because Void is going to answer all of your harass with Time Walk.
Yeah.
Undying is going to spam a lot, so they're likely to get a stick, which means they're more likely to cast more spells, so that means more mana for you. This could have been a good stick lane.
Yeah. See, I was on the fence about it, but that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Like maybe this instead of a
I
Sal
don't think about the
or something.
fact that like CM like has like mana like built into her kit, so
Yeah.
sorta, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like level 2. They usually start with Mango anyway, though.
Yeah.
So far, this is going okay. Let's see. Yeah, you're doing alright on creep score. Let's look at XP. Yeah, very slight lead.
Yeah. I think also, oh, I actually did have a third question.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
something kind of happens. I mean, it's sort of related to the first question, but because it's when Huskar gets strong. It's like, what do you do when like weird shit starts happening? Like your lane just gets kind of invaded, and then like they stick around. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So like basically like instead of having your regular lanes, now you have like 3 heroes here, 2 heroes over there.
Yeah, you're just getting camped.
Yeah, kinda. And I'm like, I'm not completely sure what to do in those situations. Like obviously if you're stronger, then you just like fight them back, but yeah, sometimes it feels really awkward because it's like we might be able to fight them, we might not, but I'm like we're kind of standoffish and like I'm not gaining anything.
Okay, so that depends entirely on how the other lanes were doing.
Yeah.
So let's say, I don't know if that happens. Does that happen in this game?
Sorta, yeah.
Okay.
I believe so.
Okay, so like let's say, you know, this Medusa gets dumpstered or whatever, and then the Willow just shows up in your lane, and now it's you two versus the 3 of them. If that is allowing Medusa to now have a game, like she's actually okay 1v1, then you want to like keep that going, because now you're propping up her lane by diminishing your own lane, right? By keeping that other support stuck there, or if it's say the mid comes and camps you. If it's allowing the other lanes to recover, then it's a good thing, and the enemy team is over investing in your lane. They're actually making a mistake. But if you're still losing the other lanes anyway, and now this is happening, then that's kind of just like a disaster. And so you then need to be like super duper careful and make sure you like don't feed in that lane. I mean, obviously you don't want to feed in the lane anyway, but like if the other 2 lanes are losing and then they show up and kill you too, then it's like totally just game over for a while, right?
Yeah.
So that would be a case of like, okay, I really need to make sure I have like wards to protect myself, and I need like to make sure I'm not like overplaying in that type of lane. Like I'm not going to go for every single kill opportunity because it's just going to result in me dying, right? Like I need to make sure I'm like just surviving, sort of. And if it's a case of like them showing up and that means that you're just going to start feeding over and over again, then you just can't go back to that lane, basically. Like then your team needs to coordinate to rotate the lanes around and do something different. Like maybe the mid comes up and takes your lane and you go mid for a bit, or maybe you pop into the jungle and your support just holds the lane for a little bit. Like it depends on how dramatic the effect is of what they're doing. Like if that movement is ruining your game totally and not getting you anything else in return, then obviously you just can't go back to that lane. Like that movement is just really good on their part, right?
Yeah.
If you can take it, like it's actually not super messing with you, like you're still able to get last hits and XP, then it's fine. They're screwing up. It's very, very contextual, that question.
Yeah.
So we'll see when it pops up here.
Yeah.
But
I think
usually you should feel good about it. You should feel good
yeah,
about the fact like, oh, now they're rotating to me. Like that's great, you know.
that's what I was gonna say. Is the good feeling about it is like that's kind of been a bigger theme in my games lately of like that happening. So it feels like okay, well, that means that like I'm applying such pressure that they like need to like relieve it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, think about it. If you were playing like I don't know, let's say you're playing like a turn-based RPG or something like that, and like they're going for your healer and killing him, but that's allowing all of your like offensive characters to just wipe everybody. And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that trade. But if it's like, oh no, if our healer goes down, then everyone goes down, then it's like obviously we need to like adjust
Right.
for it, right? It's purely just like a cause and effect thing. Okay, so we went for Arcane Boots again. Didn't need the Vanguard. That makes sense. You know, another thing you can do, by the way, so when you do end up in these lanes that are like this, where you're kind of just winning them by default, take the time to stack the hard camp for yourself.
Yeah.
Even if, like, this guy's not going to do it, because that means, like, there's just more farm for yourself. So, like, in these types of lanes where it's like, okay, I'm not really going to kill the guy, but, you know, I'm not threatened, right? You need to look for every opportunity to accelerate yourself. Like, go steal a camp or something.
That's something I noticed watching better Beastmaster players and just better offlaners in general is like they start taking the hard camp like way earlier than I start.
Mm-hmm.
Like probably by like if they can by like minute 5.
Right. Like this, you know, like what your Undying is doing, like pressuring that.
Yeah. Like right there, I probably could have taken it and gotten this wave.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
The other thing to think about, though, at this specific moment is that the 7-minute rune is coming up, so your Undying is about to leave, right? So you don't want to overplay too much right now. Like, this is unfortunate. The instant he leaves, you die.
Yeah.
So that's actually, we do need to look at that, because that's a thing that a lot of people would, like... I feel like this is a mistake a lot of players in general would make. Like, their support is leaving to go do something important, and then you just, like, instantly die, right?
Yeah.
You need to be aware, like, of if his presence here is allowing you to do this or not. So, obviously, now we know it doesn't, right? Like, it's too much CC. So, as soon as he's walking away, you need to, like, start playing differently.
Yeah, for sure.
Which means, like, probably sitting back a little bit more and just looking for, like, axe last hits, in your case.
Yeah.
You got a little bit lucky on the bashes there, but still.
Yeah.
They do have a lot of kill threat on you because of that.
Yeah.
See, this Undying is probably like, God damn it, I left for literally 5 seconds and he died.
Yeah.
So we need to try and avoid that if possible.
For sure.
Like, it's actually a lot bigger of a deal than it seems, because especially when we're talking about climbing, like, if you're gonna climb, then you need to be, like, absolutely, like, dominating every game, right? So, so those types of things are what's gonna, like, make it really hard for you.
Yeah.
Even though it's just one death, right? You know?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's, you know, an advantage that I had that I'm losing, basically.
Yeah, okay, so this is where we get 2 main ganks. At least your team shows up.
Yeah.
I'd actually be kind of happy with that trade right now, simply because the Huskar died before the Zeus died.
Yeah.
That could be a lot worse. So, okay, so now you're in this position. Okay, so everyone has come to this lane. I think I would just go mid. Deuce is free farm now, more or less. Mid tower's gone down, so this is a relevant objective. Like, go push this out. If you come back here, you're just going to get stuck in teamfight mode over and over and over again.
Yeah, see?
Not necessarily what you want right now. And the other thing is they don't... Your 2 supports are up here, but, like, their job is to protect cores farming, right? So if you go here, maybe the Zeus comes up here and they still have something to do. But if you go here and then Zeus is like, I'm going to go, I don't know, jungle or whatever. Let's say it's not Zeus, but, like, you know, he goes jungle. Then one of your supports just gets to farm this a little bit. And then maybe you, like, come back up again. So, yeah, Zeus is coming back here. So if you're walking mid, that's what you're doing. Very good. And against these heroes like Huskar, it's basically, this happened to me recently. We had a Huskar in our game, and it was complete AIDS, right?
Yeah.
You just have to know whether or not fighting him is going to result in killing him, and that's like,
Yeah.
that's literally it. It's like do or die with this hero. You can't screw with it. So, like,
Yeah.
um,
And I feel like with me and him, like it's kind of a we're both kind of on a tightrope as far as like if either of us like misplay, we can kind of easily kill each other.
you feel like you have kill threat on the Huskar?
Not solo, but if I have somebody who can show up and he like jumps on me and I ult back,
Yeah.
then he's just sitting there with half his health gone and stunned.
Hmm. Yeah. Your team doesn't even have a very good answer to this guy because a lot of your damage is going to be, in this phase of the game, it's going to be Zeus, and Huskar specifically has magic resistance. So, like, this is the window where you would want to gank him. Like, as soon as you get 6, you'd want to get your supports and come gank this guy before he gets his helm.
Yeah.
Other than that, we just need to, like, make sure we're not dying to him. That's really it, and keeping track of his movements and stuff like this. So, like, you know, this movement that he's doing, like because I noticed you just cast the hawk, right?
Yeah.
And then he walked up. So that could be a case where it's like, okay, maybe we can hold the hawk to like actually watch something. Because I mean, to be honest, this hawk placement, I know this is like a really weird timing thing. This hawk placement isn't really helping you that much unless you're expecting the Huskar to be sitting right here.
Yeah.
So this could be a thing where wait to place this until you know like what area you need to see. So right now, because the Huskar is likely to bounce back and forth, you'd want it to be in the river or kind of guarding your triangle or guarding like this area. This area sort of helps you if you intend to farm right here, but then you'd want it to be deeper than this because this is kind of overlapping with your creep vision. So that's one thing. So tracking this Huskar's movements is going to be a really big part of it. That's not entirely your job. That's kind of your supports as well. But you are unique in that you have a global invisible ward with flying vision. So this is like the one freaking offlaner that actually can be thinking about this sort of thing. Okay, we're still on Zeus's camera. That's not what I want. There we go. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty much it. Just like farming, trying to create pressure, get this arcane rune. I would want to look for a fight, like kill this wave, and then the next level player would be like, okay, I have arcane rune, I have ultimate. Like if I show up right now, let's go do something, right? This is a really big power spike right now. Deuce is fine bottom. There's nothing to do here. We don't have solo kill, so we're not going to sit middle side. Like right here, I'd really like it if you like TP'd up here and like try to kill this Razor or something. Let's see what you do. It's also the catapult wave, so spending a little bit of time just to get this shoving there's nothing wrong with this. And actually, once you get it to this point, once you've killed off the wave, that's good enough. Like this will deal with it on its own.
Yeah.
So if time is of the essence, like this is all you need to do to like make sure this is fine. And I'd want to like go get the roar in action now. Fight's kind of over by the time you're ready for it.
You like this?
Yeah, there you go.
They thought they couldn't get hit.
Yeah, axe range is crazy. Okay, tanking for the catapult. I dig. Uh-oh. Oh, did we escape? Okay, cool. I like it. That's good. Kind of burned our salve off with the fire, though.
Yeah.
Oops.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Yeah, I like this movement. Did you see them on bottom?
Radiant's bottom tower has fallen.
Okay. So that's a case of just not keeping track of the Huskar's movements a little bit.
Yeah.
So the last time we saw him, I'm just watching the minimap right now. Last time we saw him was mid, and then he just disappears. We see him mid again, and then we don't see him anymore. So you should know right now, like he's either sitting in the triangle or he went in here and TP'd away. maybe up here, right? That's the two places I would be expecting him would be right here in the triangle or up here. So you got to be really careful about walking into places blindly against these types of heroes. Like, I'm not walking in that triangle again unless I have my whole team with me, or like I see the Huskar somewhere, because this is just how he's gonna pick off some people. This is like cheesy, you know, running around as a solo trying to kill people.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a common mistake a lot of people make against heroes like Huskar. Or they're just like, oh no, he's strong, we gotta fight him. And it's like, you can't fight him. You can't. You need to like make it an unfair fight if you're gonna fight him. Because that's all the hero does. He's just super broken early. Like, it's crazy, right? Just one spell and you're dead. You even got under tower. So, yeah, this is really, it's just about tracking Huskar's movements and only engaging with him when you know that it's going to work out.
Yeah, I think this is something I've really wanted to work on in general, too. Like, just kind of, like, doing a lot more of keeping my eyes on the map, because it's also relevant to whenever my team will end up doing something that I wasn't expecting, and then I'm not there for it.
It helps a lot playing support, because, like, most of your job is watching the freaking minimap and thinking about this shit. So, like, if you need to practice on that, like, that's one area. It's pretty easy to start practicing that. Or one way to practice that, I guess. Okay, good defense. Now we want to turn this into something, right? So we've rotated over here. We're not fighting the Huskar. Yeah, we want to pressure this tower now. So hopefully, it would have been nice if this Dazzle stayed with us, but whatever. Yep, kill this guy immediately. I like it. All right, whatever. This type of a death is kind of okay.
Yeah.
It's not ideal, but it's okay. Because it's giving your Deuce a space, she's getting a tower, and at the very least you traded. Right?
Yeah.
While pushing. So that one is kind of fine. Yeah. Huskar dying there is, like, totally cool. And Huskar has actually died probably more times than he should have.
Yeah.
I would say. And so, at what point were they like, hey, you need to buy a halberd?
Like, right about now.
Right about now. Yeah. I'm honestly not sure. Like...
Yeah, see, that's how I felt, because it was like, I could, like, start getting, like the Black Dragon and, like, really, like, accelerating my farm and pushing hard.
Yeah. And
I still have a way of dealing with him. It's just, you know, it is my ultimate, and it has a longer cooldown than Halberd. But then if I get Halberd, like, it's not improving my farm at all. It's just, like, mildly kind of improving the fight.
That's the important part, though, right? So we're talking about, like, getting to the late game, right? And so what I would say is, if the lanes had been more even, or if we had won the lane phase, then going into the Helm would be the next step, because then we're accelerating and we're keeping up tower pressure. But so far, you guys are actually behind. The lanes kind of lost the lanes, sort of.
Yeah.
And now this Huskar is a problem. So now it's like, okay, we're not going to get to the next phase of, like, pushing towers until we get over this Huskar problem. And so I kind of agree with your team here. I think instead of the Vlads picking up the halberd would have been more effective, because, like, having a Helm Dom creep on defense is, like, not as great as just being able to disarm their Huskar.
Yeah.
Kill him, you know? So I kind of agree, actually. I think it would have been good. Get the Helm of the Dominator. Wait on the Vlads. The other reason, partly why it's not terribly great, is that your team is not specifically super right-click. So Zeus doesn't really utilize a Vlad's. Dazzle doesn't really utilize Vlad's. Medusa especially doesn't really utilize Vlad's because she's all mana. She doesn't need lifesteal at all, right?
Right.
So if you had, if your team was like, I don't freaking know, Slardar and like a Drow or something or whatever the hell. Let's say it was like a TA mid and you had like a safe lane, I don't know, Ursa or something like that, like physical right click cores that want to fight right now. They'd be like, okay, Vlad's, that's great, But I think in this instance, yeah, the halberd does make more sense.
Gotcha.
Also, especially because both Huskar, Razor, and Void do a lot of their damage through right clicks.
Right.
Razor is kind of the biggest exception to that, but yeah, three of them are right clickers. This is not like a spell comp, right? You don't need a pipe really against this.
Yeah.
So or you don't need it super fast
Radiant's
anyway.
top tower is under attack.
So yeah, I think so. Yeah, halberd makes sense to me.
Radiant's top tower is under attack. Radiant's top tower.
It's always going to be a tough game versus a Huskar.
Yeah.
Like, unless he just gets dunked in lane, or you guys like naturally have a really great team against him. He's a really hard hero to deal with in general. Like, so you're gonna run into this more and more as you go up in ranks. Like, people just playing heroes that are like friggin' impossible to deal with. You're just gonna run into like brood mothers and meepos and Huskars and all this like nonsense.
Yeah.
It's going to be less about, oh, they picked more carries than us, so now we just lose because we're not pushing, and just like, this guy's out of control. What do we do?
Yeah.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack. Radiant's bottom tower has fallen.
I do like this, though. This is super good. Tormentor, good. Very good with these heroes. Yeah, you get the tombstone save. That is really nice, too. Dazzle shard is like one of the best shards ever, by the way.
Yeah.
So good. It's so good that I would actually just build it instead of waiting for Tormentor. Like, fuck it. It's too important. I just need to have it. I don't want to RNG it or wait for my team to get Tormentor. I'm just buying it.
No, yeah, I think it ends up kind of like saving this fight.
By the way, in these types of a situation, like this can be an instance where you can have your creeps split pushing. So you can have your boars just like shoving this lane out and just keep your Helm Dom creep near you or something like that.
Yeah. I'll probably have that. I'm planning on. I kind of want to get one of those fucking ridiculous RTS mouses that have like a million buttons on the side, because that's the thing that works for me the most. Is like microing with my little side buttons.
Okay.
But I only have 2 right now, and I use it to do all my creeps, including Beastmaster, and then just my micro units.
Okay. Yeah. Are there any keyboard commands you could sub for some of those?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out. We're definitely working on it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see what you can figure out there. I mean, still like just using like Alt A to select everything, or C, like just having one of those select all buttons be a hotkey could be good, and then save your mouse buttons for specific units.
Yeah.
It'd be good. This is an instance of it because it's like the boars still don't even do that much. So like having this other lane pushed out is gonna like. Basically, what it's going to do is, like, hopefully start to relieve this push.
Yeah.
We don't really want them pushing our tower, and we all have to sit here doing this, right? While Void is just farming. It's terrible for us. So, like, that's the way you're like, okay, let's get this shoved. And then sooner or later, they're going to, like, go respond to that, and then we can push out again.
Yeah.
It's like an Arc Warden, right? It's really hard to push into an Arc Warden because he's still pushing you all the time. Alright, well, just kill him. That's good, too. I want to see what you roared there. I didn't catch it. Okay, yeah, I dig it. Yeah, wait for the Aegis and stuck under tower. That's pretty good. The only other thing I would wait for on the roar, maybe, would be the Void. like waiting for
Yeah.
him to chrono, and hopefully you can like roar into it.
Yeah. Well, we knew he had chronoed the.
Yeah, he'd already chrono.
Yeah.
But that's like the other thing I'd be looking to save it for, maybe.
Right. Right.
It's like chrono, CM ult, and then Huskar whenever. Okay, so at this point, we're definitely like, we're past the early game and we're into the mid game. So
Yeah.
we kind of like gone over the hump now. Net worth is evened out. They threw on high ground with Aegis. So like, okay, game is like even now. So
Yeah.
I think that would be that area of it. So does that, so we talked about question 2. So should we finish Helm before Halberd? I said, I think the Halberd before Helm was correct, would have been better. Or we'll say Overlord, not the Helm. Because Helm of the Dominator is fine, right? But
Yeah.
going into the full Dominator, totally, or not totally necessary. Okay. Better. Because of Huskar and to right-click cores, and Vlad's doesn't help our team much. That's the two main things.
Yeah.
And then what if we do if our lane gets camped? So that would be, you have to evaluate how much damage that's doing versus how much it's relieving pressure to your other lanes. So I don't know exactly how to word the answer to that because it was kind of a lengthy answer, but we'll just write it out. And how damaging that is to your lane and the overall team comp versus how much pressure is being relieved. So sometimes that's like a disaster. Sometimes sometimes the enemy team is throwing you a bone. Like they're actually making a mistake by doing it. They should stay where they are and just keep winning super hard there.
Yeah.
You just have to like judge that. And the easiest way to judge that is just like, as soon as you notice your lane is getting camped, like back up and check what the other lanes look like. And if it looks like, oh, my drow is totally fine on her own now and she's like recovering, where before she was like stuck under her tower at half health the whole time, like now she's pushing the lane and farming jungle camps, like, oh great, this is awesome. You know, or the Huskar leaves to come through with your lane, and like your, like, let's say you have a Leshrac, your Leshrac like instantly kills his tower while he's gone. Like, sweet, please keep coming to my lane. But if it's like they're coming to your lane and everything is just on fire, then yeah, no, maybe that's not good then. But it's oftentimes not necessarily something you can do about it besides just like, okay, I have to leave now. So, right, that's why it's just like a really good move to do these types of things.
Yeah.
And that's how supports win games, is making those rotations. It's like the cores actually can't just like outplay it because they're just not strong enough to. So that's like a trick to playing support, is like, oh, what if I went to this lane and made his life hell? Does that just instantly win the game for us, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So does that answer those 3 questions well? Do I need to elaborate on any of those?
No.
Okay.
No, I definitely feel a lot more confident in those things.
I'm put this in the homework, so any other questions about anything else we didn't hit on?
No, not really. Maybe like fuck. How was I gonna word it? What, I know we kind of talked about this before. How do you see the difference in like Lycan and Beastmaster? Because I played the Lycan game, and the thing I do enjoy about Lycan a bit is that it feels like I have more solo kill potential, but it feels like I obviously trade that for like team fight potential. And I still lost the Lycan game that I played, but I kind of figured out like what I was supposed to be doing with Lycan. So like towards the end I was just like destroying their supports, which like we still lost, but it sort of delayed it. So is that kind of how you see him as well?
Yeah, no, I think you already identified it. Like,
Yeah.
basically, I think a more categorical way to look at the difference between the two is Lycan is closer to a carry and Beastmaster's closer to an offlaner.
Yeah.
So, like, Lycan, if he gets ahead, actually scales into a carry that has solo kill threat, and he can late game, like, carry the game. Beastmaster, if he gets ahead, just gets, like, more utility, tankier. He's not suddenly, like, generally, like, solo killing people. I mean, sometimes. But that's not usually what's happening. He's not just, like, building a ton of right-click damage and critting you all to death, right? So that's why that feels that way. That also means that Lycan can't do the same types of things that Beastmaster can do. Like Lycan, you know, if you go camp a Lycan lane, it's really ruins his game actually, because he can't farm very well from afar. Whereas like if you go camp Beastmaster, you'd be like, whatever, fuck it, I'm just gonna chuck axes for last hits and I'm gonna go do jungle camps and I'm fine. Like because he's more of an offlaner, it's harder to shut him down earlier, where Lycan's more of a carry, so he has a bad lane, it just sucks forever, right?
Right. Do you see them as like similarly greedy?
No, Lycan is way greedier.
Okay.
Way greedier. And the main reason is that like you just have to look at their spells. This mainly has to do with spells. So we'll look at Lycan real quick. So, Shapeshift. Obviously, the main benefit of this is move speed, and now you're critting everything, right? It makes Lycan's punches better. Like he's better at punching people. Feral Impulse, same kind of thing. It's just like more damage for right clicking. Howl is weird because it's a global ability, and then Summon Wolves are like they're better than Boars for sure, but it's kind of like on the same level, right? They're not like terribly different. So it's mainly just the fact that like, you know, imagine like think of it this way. What if you took Lycan's spells and put them on Beastmaster? Like, or you took Beastmaster spells and put them on Lycan? Like, what if Lycan had Roar and Wild Axes?
Yeah.
Like, he'd be completely different, right? Because now suddenly, like, oh, he can farm from a distance and farm ancient stacks, and he can, like, stun someone important. He's, like, more of an offlaner now. Whereas, like, if you put all this stuff on Beastmaster, you'd be like, oh my god, look at this guy running around punching everyone to death. It's just the spells. They're both, I mean, wait, is Beastmaster still a strength hero? I don't even, yeah, Beastmaster's, okay, two strength heroes became universal heroes, so they don't even have, like, differences in, like, the way their stats affect their damage. Let me see, stat gain, 2.9, 1.4, 1.2, versus, wait, was I looking at, oh yeah, we've got the amalgam going on. We are looking at Beastmaster, don't worry, guys.
Ugno looks sick.
Yeah. Yeah, their stat gain is, like, almost the same as well. So it's literally just like the spells, basically. So yeah, to answer that, Lycan is more carry. BM is more offlaner. Lycan is greedier.
What situations would? Because I know, like, that was a thing for a while where Lycan was offlane. Would you still do that? Or are there situations where it makes sense and situations where it doesn't, or does it not really make sense at all at this point in the game?
I think that just depends on what the lane matchup looks like. So, like, if you think you're allowed to pick greedier, like, if they don't have a comp that's really going to punish a Lycan offlane, you know, and the enemy safe lane doesn't totally wreck Lycan's day, then it's like, oh, I can get away with it? Sure, because it is greedier, right? It also has to do with how the other lanes look. So if it's like you're assuming that the other two lanes are going to go even or are going to win, then you kind of get to pick a little bit greedier. If you're assuming the other lanes are not going to go well, then you need to pick something less greedy that can fight earlier. So everything is like a team comp thing, balancing against the enemy team comp. It's like how much do I get away with here? And like that's the problem with like low rank versus high rank. Is like low rank players, like, you know, like where you were coming from, like in Guardian, right? They don't punish anything. Like, they
Yeah.
don't group and push. They don't, like, smoke gank or anything like that. So the enemy team gets to pick AM Medusa PA, and you're like, oh my god, how do we beat it? They have too much late game, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, that shouldn't be allowed to work, basically, is the
Right,
answer.
right.
So, does that answer that question?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I just throw around that question in my head of like, should I be playing greedier in these games, or like should I be playing thinking that like my lanes will probably lose and I need to be able to like help them recover?
Yeah.
Which is it's just kind of like me like kind of theorizing solo queue a bit.
Yeah, sure. By the way, thank you for the follow, Lucille. Let's put this up here. This is like a two-part question. I don't have the perfect answer to that because obviously, like, I don't play Lycan. I can't tell you exactly like, oh, it's a good Lycan game.
Yeah.
But that's basically, I think of him more as a carry. I think of Lycan as closer to Night Stalker, whereas I think of Beastmaster as closer to like, not quite Mars, maybe something like that. Maybe a Centaur. I think of him closer to like a Centaur, right? It's very different, like, archetypes. Like, that's one of the primary ways you shut down a Night Stalker is just, like, dumpster him in lane so he doesn't get a good start. Same thing with the Lycan. Okay. I suppose it's kind of just, like, how much CC does the hero have, because Razor is sort of in the same boat, right? Like, all this hero does is just, like, kind of like... Well, no, that's not the same boat at all. Razor's like a lane dominator.
Yeah.
So he's not typically a greedy pick. It's a bad example. It's closer to like the Night Stalker thing, like Lycan and Night Stalker.
Yeah. Night Stalker definitely makes sense.
Every single hero can be put on a scale of like super greedy to not greedy at all.
Yeah.
And that goes for cores as well. Like obviously, you know, a Sven pick is not as greedy as an AM pick, right? Or a Wraith King pick is not as greedy as like a Medusa pick. It's just how it is. Typically strength heroes, really. I guess that's the answer there. Okay, so for homework, definitely I want you to experiment with making your own item guides.
Okay.
And we'll say I want you to do one for Sand King because you know Sand King really well.
Yeah.
And then another one for Beastmaster. And do it for Sand King first, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, do it for Sand King first because you're really comfortable with that, so less to trip you up there. Have you ever? Do you know how to do it?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
I've seen it before.
Because I've done it a little bit for myself too, and I think it's actually like a really good thought exercise. Yeah, you just go to guides here and do create, and this gotta go through this whole UI here, and then just make sure it's like you can customize all of these categories here. So like I did like on one of my heroes I had like different starting items based on if I was gonna go stick or not. It's like a whole thing right there. And then I had like my, instead of just situational items, I set it to like offensive items or defensive items, things like that. But you can also do neutral items if you care about that, and you can do like a whole ass like skill build here if you want to do that, which is pretty cool. So yeah, play around with this, get a feel for it. It'd be super helpful. Just try and be like as complete as possible about it, and try and think about like everything. Just don't end up with one of those guides that's like got 500 different items in it, you know. Like what was the one I saw? One that was just like, was it a Beastmaster one? We were looking at a guide last time and it had like almost every freaking item in it. It was crazy. I'm like, this isn't help, like this shit. What the hell is this? It's like, dude, you can't just put every item in the game and be like, well, sometimes this is the right, like this is not helpful. You know, you need to keep it simple like this. What's the core thing? And then obviously, like as you learn the game, you can get much more like situational about things. So definitely, yeah, make your own guides. And then, do you feel like the homework from the previous week is still something like we want to work on more? You feel like you got
Yeah,
enough practice on that?
I think maybe focusing a little bit more on the micro now, because now I'm starting to do that a little bit. Try and like more often use my creeps abilities in like team fights and stuff.
Okay, so that's going to be an ongoing thing, but that's good.
Yeah,
Like we felt like we got some practice in with that, and then also the
yeah,
blink dagger too. I didn't even look at all
yeah.
your
No,
games,
the blink
but
dagger I forgot. So that one we'll definitely do.
yeah,
It's
okay,
weird though. 'Cause sometimes I don't know. Like it with Beastmaster. Like I know people obviously like in pro do it all the time, but I always think of like you don't really want to get too ahead of your creeps. But maybe I think too much about the creeps
the
and
creeps are
not enough about
definitely
what I mean.
yeah, yes, the creeps are definitely like supplemental, like we
Yeah,
talked about. Like the boars do not do that much. But
yeah.
I'm not saying it's like you need to just build blink in every game. Like the types of
Right,
games where you're
right.
gonna build blink, or it's like, oh, the enemy carry is a drow, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna, or it's like a dazzle, like a save hero or a squishy backline carry. Like those are the games where it's like, okay, I'm gonna dive on them and blink them, or blink and
Yeah,
stun them, right? That can be good. Other than that, though, typically the meta has been a lot more about like the offlaner just tanking up and building lots of auras. So, like, that's still viable too. It's just like don't completely ignore the blink dagger because obviously getting a blink stun can be like totally game winning on occasion, right? But yeah, so we'll keep that in there. So make your own item guides for Sand King and Beastmaster and build blink dagger. Um,
there we go. My fucking Discord froze for a second. I was
okay.
gonna say the thing that feels weird about that with Beastmaster is the fact that he doesn't really have that solo kill potential as much, especially without like your creeps with you. Like
Yeah.
it makes sort of sense. Like obviously jumping on the drow and stuff like that. Like I get for sure. But I don't know. Sometimes it feels weird to think about. Okay, I'm gonna jump on this person during a fight, and roar them, and then like take their health down a bit, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying, but it's kind of like I don't know. This is obviously more utility, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like the type of thing where I don't know who's a hero you would want to blink dagger on, like obviously Mars or something like that. But
yeah. I guess I have to think about it a little bit more as like a setup thing, like because like there's two modes in which Sand King can use Blink Dagger. You can just blink and stun somebody, and then your team catches up, or you're canceling something or whatever.
yeah.
Um, and then there's Blink with ult, which is just killing.
Well, let's think
Uh,
about like maybe I don't know, like say a Dawnbreaker or a Pangolier, like where these heroes like typically don't usually go Blink Dagger, but occasionally they do, right? And
yeah,
in the cases where they are, it's because it's like, okay, I'm gonna like dive in and insta stun this hero because that's important. And then it's obviously you need the follow up damage. They're not just gonna like solo kill the person usually, but like it would be like, okay, my team's in position. I'm gonna like blink in and stun this important target, and then they're gonna follow up and kill him. So you kind of need other dive or long range damage to be with you in that instance. But
yeah,
like, yeah, it's like I'm saying, it's not an every game type of item. But you're not a Legion
right,
commander, right? Where you do
yeah,
just blink and solo kill someone. So it's not core like that, but it's the type of thing where it's like having that as an ability that you have could be really nice because it's not the same as other heroes. So like if you look at the other heroes that typically build a blink dagger as like part of their kit, it's because it's like they either solo kill the person when they blink on them or they're repositioning in them in some way. So like Magnus blink, Marcy blink, Mars blink, like all three of those heroes, they blink and they throw you somewhere else. That's why the positioning of the blink is important, right?
yeah,
And those heroes kind of suck without blink dagger to an extent. Versus like, why the hell would you build a blink on a razor? Oh, haha, I'm here, I'm linking you. Like that's the, that sucks, right? Um,
yeah.
but it's like Slardar as well. He does a lot more damage than Beastmaster. I don't know. It's It's different with every hero, obviously, but just don't. All I'm saying is don't ignore it. It
Right.
can be good sometimes, and usually what I would just say is like, oh, there's an enemy drow. Okay, I'll build Blink Dagger this game. Maybe just keep it as simple as that. There is an enemy range carry. I will blink them.
Yeah.
Right, something like that.
Sure.
So I just said build Blink Dagger when diving is good. And I think other than that, we can call it there, unless there's any other things. That's a pretty good 54 minutes.
Oh yeah. No, I feel good.
Good. Alrighty.
Definitely in a place I didn't think I'd be so quickly with Beastmaster. I thought it was gonna take a lot longer to like get to winning games. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, gotta have confidence in yourself, man. It's not like you're bad at the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it, honestly, a lot of these things like sound harder than they are. So
Yeah,
it's,
for sure.
it's you can pretty much learn anything in this game.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, let's call it there, and we good for next week.
Hell yeah.
Cool. And I will catch you next Monday then.
All right.
Alrighty, thanks for the session.
Peace.
See you around.
See you around.
Alright guys, thank you for watching. I hope that was helpful. If it was, don't forget to check out the playlist at the end of the video, and check me out on Twitch. I stream every weekday at 2 p.m. PST onwards. Thanks for watching. Bye.